brilliant people. So I want to ask you today, is your buffer buff? So what do I mean by that? Okay, so one of the series that I've been doing lately is about once you have your intuition, once you have your integrity, working to get greater resources so that you can express your integrity in a more expansive way. This goes with the financial coaching I do with some of my clients, and because obviously I believe that, the more money we have in the hands of those who have integrity, the better for all of us. So a buffer, so when you're working on your finances, a buffer is one of the first things that you want to have, because a buffer just means that you've actually got enough money sitting there just in readily available cash, and it can take care of all your expenses for anything from 3 to 6 months. I know for some people that is going to just be a stretch, even that, but we can't really start working on investments without that to start with. And one of the reasons for that is that, quite apart from the fact that sometimes, things get a bit tough and you don't want to have to pull out of your investment, ahead of time, because that is when sometimes you can get yourself into trouble. But it's also because a lot of investments, we actually require debt initially to go into them, because such as buying an investment property, there's very few of us that actually could just go and buy a house with cash. I mean, cool if you can, but there's very few of us who can do that. So, and the other point is that actually one of the purposes of buying a property or, with cash is that actually that makes inflation work for you. The fact that we're in an inflationary period right now, unfortunately, isn't really that surprising, because so many governments around the world spent so much money during the pandemic. And when governments are deeply in debt, they actually like there to be inflation, because it actually reduces the sort of effective or true value of the loan. So anyway, that's a whole other argument. But the point is that for you, particularly in inflation, having good debt can really weirdly accelerate your, the growth of your wealth. But to do that, as I said, you often have to go into debt. So the first thing that you need to be aware of is, what is the difference between good debt and bad debt? Well, someone once summed it up that, bad debt will eat you, good debt will feed you. And so in other words, good debt is actually what you could call productive debt. And what do I mean by productive? I mean that the debt itself is producing something for you. So it means that the debt itself is helping to pay the loan. So, real estate, preferably positively geared real estate, but that's another discussion. But essentially, if you get the right kind of property, obviously the rental on that property will hopefully go towards the mortgage and make the mortgage easy to manage. Or, if you're borrowing things to grow your business, the growth of the business will pay for the debt. Non-productive debts, they're not, they're sort of go to impulse buys and things that we're buying that they're not really producing anything. They might produce some good feelings, but they don't produce anything to help pay down the debt. So when you have a buffer, what I mean by that is your buffer is robust enough or strong enough that even if you do have debts like in investment property or whatever, you're not going to sweat it, because you know that even if things go pear-shaped for a little while, you're good, you're covered. So if you are getting more loans, you are going to have to get a larger buffer. And you're also going to want to think about, okay, so if I've got this bad debt, if I've got this debt that really isn't helping me, it's getting in the way of me actually building up a buffer, you're going to want to start on your buffer even when you do have debt, even if it's bad debt, because even if you're just putting away, even if it's just 20 cents a week or something, having a little bit of money there that is just your money that you can use for emergencies, even when you do have debts, psychologically it starts to change your relationship with money, and that's really important. And I did another video on that, so I won't go really into it now. The point is that when you have bad debts, what is the best way to pay them off? Well, there's a very simple technique. What you can do is look with each debt that you have, look at the sum, look at the amount that you owe, divide that by their minimum repayment that they're asking for. Now, just for the sake of my brain, just to make it easy, like if you owe $100 and they're only asking you to pay $5, even without worrying about interest or whatever, that means it's going to take you 20 repayments to pay off that $100 debt. However, if you owe $100 and the repayment is $20, well, then it's only going to take you 5 repayments. And that's important. You want to actually pay, it might seem counterintuitive, weirdly, for someone who talks about intuition all the time, but you're actually going to want to pay off the debt that actually has the longest number first. So like if the $100 debt that's only asking for a $5 repayment, that's the one you're going to want to pay off first, because the chances are by the time you've paid it off, it's going to end up being much more costly. So if you've got any extra to go towards paying off some of those bad debts, put it on that one first. And then when you've put that one off, when you've paid that one off, take that $5 and then use that for the next one, so that it will gather momentum. Because the reason why is that, when we look at our credit cards, for example, if you're not someone who pays off your credit card at the end of every month, like in total, if what you do is you just pay the minimum, like if you just pay the minimum repayment, well, I've got some scary news for you. They work out that debt in the same way as the banks work out your mortgage repayment. In other words, if you never use that credit card again, if you never put another cent on it, but all you do is pay off the minimum repayment, it will take you 25 years to pay off that credit card. And you can just imagine how much interest, that has cost you. And all of that interest you could be using to create productive debt, which is pretty much what the wealthy do. So there you are. That is a little bit of looking at your buffer and understanding that you do want a larger buffer when you're going to get some loans, but you really only want to get productive debt. In other words, you only want to go into debt around buying things that are going to, in some way or another, help pay off that debt. Because being able to produce larger resources for yourself is one of the ways that it makes it easier to remember that you're brilliant.